Welcome to another episode of War Hero to Superhero, helping military veterans and first responders transform their lives from the bedroom to the boardroom. I am now one of your hosts. I shouldn't have shown you that thing.
Whoops.
Daniel Faust, and this is my other host,
Michelle Faust, wifey and co-host on this fantastic program.
All right. So if you obviously notice, our digital room is our living room, but not our living room because you wouldn't like our living room unless you like a 150-inch screen projector with a 16-seater
It's awesome.
couch. That part is awesome. So outside of that, a kitty little area. We'll show you the behind the scenes later, but then we have a cat tree that got destroyed by the cat over the past year and everything else. But yeah, so this is our
This
virtual
is much
living
more
room.
beautiful.
Yes, it is. So when you have 4 kids, sometimes it's just hard. So if you hear things in the background and there's yelling and screaming and you're questionable if you have to call 911 for us, it's not. That's our normal volume in the normal day.
We're good.
So we're going to jump into, let me look at the topic real quick. So I'm looking away. Rewrite the story in the living room. We've been talking about that the past couple of days. If you didn't hear our clubhouse on Wednesday, it went pretty well. So we do clubhouses on Wednesday and Saturday. Still learning how to go operate out of those. And now we're operating on a brand new iMac with a big screen.
Woo!
With 1080p and everything
Moving on
else.
up.
So hopefully my eyes are a little more focused on you. So this is not a lazy eye. It's just I'm looking at everything in the eye. So my wife will keep the eye contact. I'll keep you laughing by my one hand clapping. There you go.
I have joints. I can't do that.
And I don't have joints.
Don't. Just
See, but she has joints.
random.
Isn't that wrong? No. All
No.
military, no joints until it gets federally approved. All right. So rewriting the story in the living room, we're going to talk about digging out of our own beep or poo or wherever you want to go with it.
Poo-poo.
Yeah. And when we talked about on
Nice way to say it.
Tuesday, my wife went over and shared on how her poo-poo went over and messed with the living room. And now we talked about the other day on Wednesday in Clubhouse how my poo-poo or poo went over and affected the living
I
room.
wish we had the sound effect.
Yeah, we don't have that
Not
sound
yet.
effects. Not yet. So we're learning. So now we're going to go jump into how did we dig out together? And actually, before we go into that, we have 3 core topics we're going to cover. First, we're going to cover spilling out. And always remember, this is a conversation. So if you want to add to there, we can see the comments. We can bring you into the comments and everything else. And when you're in Clubhouse, you actually get to speak to us on Wednesdays and Saturdays. So if you actually want to see if these voices are real and not just deep fake videos, which I don't think we want to make a deep fake video of this, but if we are real, we're authentic. And yes, I'm going back to Arizona, but I'm not
We're kind
Diamondbacks
of
fan.
coordinated too on the colors. Here.
No, we're not. You guys can put that in the
He will
comments.
never
if you're not-
admit it. He will never admit it.
If 100 people go and admit that we're coordinating colors, then I will accept it. It's got to be 100 people because then I got at least a good focus group on that. But we only have a few watching right now. So share, like, love. Just so you know, if you're helping your friends grow their brand, likes are okay, loves are better. You might not even love the content, but you might be like, it's okay with the content. But a thumbs up is kind of like saying you're just fine.
I am just fine.
Yeah. So thanks for the thumbs up, but
Thank
please
you.
increase them to hearts. That helps everybody. If you have your own live and things of that nature, tell your friends the same. So let's go jump into it. Spilling out. What typically happens when you go over and husband and wife go over and have those arguments, have that poo-poo come out of your cup, which that's nasty in your cup. So what happens if any bad water or bad liquids in there, like the cup, it's going to overflow and come out. So what do you think typically happens, wifey, when we spill out of our own cups?
Well, it's nothing good. I mean, usually you're just exploding on people or negatively, spewing, negativity out of your mouth. And then your whole attitude and demeanor just sucks.
I definitely agree. So let me share an example on how my poo-poo came out. So
Is this a refrigerator story?
No, we'll do laundry story.
That's a good one.
All
That's a
right.
good one.
So this was back in 2012 to 2013. We were in Arkansas. We just moved. I worked in mental health for 2.5 years. My poo-poo was already coming out in general.
It was everywhere.
It was everywhere. And then we moved to another state, hopefully change the job, change the quote unquote script to deal with the poo-poo. But unfortunately, we carried it in our cups and we carried it wherever we went.
I wonder how many times you're going to say poo-poo.
We can have those people count.
I'm
100.
just wondering.
So it goes with the theme. So we're carrying this poo-poo or malarkey or dung or whatever word you want to go over and use. I don't care what it is, but choose your word. So we carried it with us. You don't realize you're carrying it with us. And then she was out in the living room this was after Eli Whitney exploded. This was like a couple months later because our kids rip stuffed animals and take every piece out
They
and
had some
explode it.
development. Let me explain. They had some developmental issues where they were looking for input, they fidgeted with things, and they decided to fixate on stuffed animals and pillows and anything that could possibly contain cotton. So everything that had cotton was literally gutted, and there was cotton all over my house, all over the room. So this is why he said Eli Whitney, because it looked like a cotton mill at my house.
They still do that to this day. It's just very minimal. Now it's Eli Whitney invents of clothes and toys everywhere. So anyway, Eli Whitney was okay. My wife was going over and doing laundry. She was just putting things in piles.
Yes.
Mine, and you can share your spelling. Come on.
Share mine.
Come on. So, and this is my poo-poo coming out because it's like, for me, military background, obviously war hero, superhero, been in about 12 years active duty, just got out. I spent $1,500 on a wardrobe. I'm not kidding you. Went to IKEA,
Beautiful.
Had the shirts, the pants racks, the shoes.
Oh, and it had the
smoked
shoe
glass.
racky thing that like pulled out straight, so you could like stack your shoes. And it was like a polished glass, like
smoked glass,
and it was like sliding doors. It was so nice.
Yep, it was. And I'm like the organized freak and everything else. And then she's organizing the clothes and she's throwing me in the piles. And my poo-poo came out, and I went over and initially said, well, that's not a system.
Because, and see, this is, and when you're married for any substantial time, you get your stories where you'll have these little blow-up conflicts, but some of them will stick a little more. And this is one that sticks. And we kind of agreed to disagree because it's better to be kind than right. But the problem was I was working on my system. He tried to tell me my system wasn't a system. And I told him just because he didn't like my system, it didn't fail to be a system. And he told me it wasn't a system. And
it wasn't that organized of a conversation.
But it was not that composed, and it wasn't that neat little boxes. It was, you're attacking me, you're being an a-hole. And you're not being reasonable. Like, you can't tell me I don't have a system when I obviously have a system just because you don't like my system. So it was completely, we look back now, and it was the most ridiculous argument probably we've ever had, but it's kind of what was underneath the argument. Because sometimes you have an argument that's pretty just menial, like you make a molehill, but really there's a mountain way under that molehill that either you need to deal with or that mountain is gonna keep popping back up.
In that particular regard, even as we're talking about nowadays, there's still poo-poo stuck to the bowl. Because you guys are probably looking at my eyes, and I'm like, I could still feel it. But it's one of those things is that it spilled out, not just
you were a fountain. Has anybody seen The Good Place? And the guy's like, there's a canyon of poo-poo. Like, Michael, the Good Place is a fantastic show, but yeah, there's a scene where he's like, I'm in a canyon of poo-poo. It's like the best scene in that entire episode. But basically, this is what this was. Oh, man.
In that particular garden, it didn't last an hour. It was like the Grand Canyon, like she was talking about. It lasted 3 days, no intimacy, constant arguments, you are statements. And our poo-poo was like a fountain, just spraying over there like chocolate fondue. It was horrible.
Gosh. No. Oh, my gosh. No. But the problem with my husband and I, again, these are things we've learned, is neither of us like being wrong. Neither of us. And we will stand there and fight to the death on the mountain we feel like is right. He thought he was right. I thought it was right. And unless one of us was backing down, nobody is able to move forward. And we didn't for a while.
No, what happened is that she went to the quote unquote pile systems and everything else and had to go over and give it up. And then like 6 months later, in a new move, in a new state, she started folding clothes. And I was like,
let's give some backstory. I was not raised in a home that prioritized or provided any kind of training or education on organization and keeping a home. Now, he is borderline OCD. So if you take somebody that's never cared for a home before in any meaningful way and is very disorganized, and you put them together in marriage with, or even living with somebody that is borderline OCD, that is a recipe for a lot of potential problems.
And the matter of the fact is what we also discovered is that when you're coming to marriage, you have a deep, deep, deep foundation of who you are. And people think, oh, you're going to go over and get married and things are going to go change and whatnot. It says it takes an average of 10 years to go from I to we. If you add any brokenness, just as simple as like we talked about the other day about my sexual assault and then my parents' divorce and my brother's death and then my wife with her parents and everything else, you add all that, you add a decade on the clock. And that's just coming to the point of resolving those major things. And now you have something that's been rooted 18 to 40 years, depending on when you get married. Some people get as late as married as 50 or 60. And now you're taking two imperfect people coming together. So it spills out even more the older you get married. So, and coming to find out, some things are going to be right, some things are going to be wrong. But that particular issue, that was something that we were just both different on.
We were different on, and we weren't like mature enough in that moment to back down and look at underneath that this is not about laundry. This was about so much more.
Yeah. For me, it was like, if I could deal with the crap on the outside, it'll hope to heal my heart on the inside. Because if my place is clean and organized, now I can get closer to God.
The problem with this, with his formula that I need everything organized and clean, is that you have 4 small toddlers and a disorganized wife. And even when the disorganized wife tried her hardest to keep the house done and keep everything going, nothing I ever did came close to making him happy. Nothing. I could have done everything and he would automatically detect the one thing I didn't, or even if I did, if it wasn't done to his standards, it was like I just was wasting my time, which led to a lot of frustration, depression. And then the whole thing, well, if it's not going to work, then I'm just not going to try, because it's just a blatant losing battle of just a waste of my time.
Yeah. So in that particular regard, some things are going to spill out and trigger lots of things huge. Someone's going to go over and spill small, but we need to ask ourselves the 2 questions. One is like, what is in my cup? Because I'm going to be spilling out anyway. So even if you have clean water, and it has lipstick on it, but whatever. So face it this way. So if you have clean water and I go bump this cup, it's going to go bump out clean water. But if my cup over here, where most of the time we mask our cups, branding right there. Sorry, I'm not holding it right. Doton would kill me. Hold on, let's see if I can do this right. And this cup right here, which is so hard.
I painted that, by
she
the
did
way.
paint that.
Drew it,
so if you want to go over, and most people don't have clear cups. They don't. Transparency, authenticity, that type of thing, well, we hide. So
I would say
I'm almost done. Come on.
Okay.
So we are like this. We don't know how much poo-poo people have in their cup. So when we bump their cup, we think it's clean. And there might be so much poo-poo that we're like, what? I didn't even see that shade before.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say is that not only do we not know what other people's cups, what's in other people's cups, but we don't even know what's on our own cup. Like, we go through life and we accumulate all of this brokenness and these experiences, and they all have an impact on the inside of us. But unless we go over and understand what's going on, we're going to react and our cup's going to spill everywhere. And we're not going to understand what is the contents of spilling and how to change that water from brokenness to health and being able to thrive and live in a healthy relationship.
Definitely key on that regard. So we're going to expand on the laundry thing and now go into the next topic of store-bought or brawny.
Does anybody buy Brawny that's watching? It's
yeah.
Like, I'm too cheap to buy Brawny.
But if you want us to
sponsor,
we would love for you to sponsor us. So if you're watching this on any media and you know a Brawny POC, hey, I'll sponsor all the time. I'm always on cleanup.
We go through paper towels like mad.
We do.
Maybe that's why we don't use Brawny. Maybe that's why.
So anyway, so we had this issue with the laundry for like 3 days, and anything that lasts that long feels like an eternity. You're at work and you're frustrated and you go back and it's the same suck. Or you have a conflict at work, but especially in the living room now, when we were spilling out, we weren't just spilling out to ourselves. We had 4 small kids.
Mhm.
So dad's not quiet. Me,
No.
mom's usually quiet until you push, and then it becomes like tiger claw, whoosh, you know, and we just spilled on there. So what did we typically do? I'm going to talk about what I did. She's going to talk about what she did, and then we're going to talk about what Bronny should have did. So my store-bought version was literally this, and this goes from the DNA of relationships, and I didn't even realize I was following this book at the time. And I wasn't even doing homework with my wife at the time, but this was this. Tension would go over and build up. Something would go over and trigger. The laundry, we went over and big blowout, 3 days and everything else. And for my store-bought version of trying to fix it, which probably, hopefully one of them in the world relates, but I'm pretty sure guys do this. You go over and try to buy it over with chocolate, try to buy it over with sex, try to buy it over with gifts, and try to go do whatever. So depending on my emotional flogging of myself would be my store-bought version of paper towels, and go over and say, like, let's go out here, or go out to eat, or intimacy frequency will go over and increase, or going over and thinking of, different things to go over and to do. And I would do patch management. So that was my store-bought version. So what would be your store-bought version?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what kind of paper towels would represent like completely shutting down and stonewalling, because the typical, there's a typical gender stereotype that men stonewall, which means that when you try to communicate them, they just shut you out. They don't communicate, and that women want to communicate. Well, something went wrong with my husband and I, because I stonewall. Like, I will shut down. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to see you. I don't even want to communicate with you. And this one pushes to communicate, chases me down, won't stop, must have the last word. And it drove me insane. And I know that the more he would push, the more I would just shut him out. And again, I didn't know why I was doing it. It was just, that is just my mechanism for stress, and I don't want to deal with you. I'm done, and I'm not going to continue engaging into this conversation. And so basically he's pushing and borderline, no, you were nagging on a consistent basis at every chance you had.
Yeah, I was Proverbs 7 if it was the male version.
And the harder he would nag and push for communication and intimacy and all of the things, I would shut down even harder, which is a horrible cycle to be in, because nobody's winning at this point. We're just in the bad cycle.
We're pretty much throwing our poo-poo at each other at that point. It's like flinging it like a monkey, and you're just going whoosh, whoosh. And that's what
monkeys fling poo?
We have some live people. If you go put it in the comments.
I think I'm going to Google that, and I think I'm going to regret that after I Google that.
The memes we find after this.
Oh, man.
I guess that'll be content for our lives after they're attached to. It's like, so if you see flinging poo-poo memes after this on our
hashtag
wall.
Monkey poo.
Yes.
Anyways.
So we went over and just basically did that. So that was our store-bought versions, and we kept repeating the cycle over and over again. And as we listened yesterday, if you guys listened yesterday on my Clubhouse, going from a-hole to all-star, my wife had to take my a-hole and rip me a new one and basically kick me spiritually in the nuts. We're just going to call it straight out that. And that's, for me, that was at least starting to get to the point that I'm realizing I'm using store-bought processes in our marriage. The really ghetto ones, like, the ones like 99 cents.
One ply.
When you go over and you get the paper towels or the TP and you're questioning if you're going to be able to function in life, either in the kitchen or in the bathroom, or you have that little scrape left that's on the roll and stuff like that. That's what I survived on in our marriage in that particular role. So any toilet paper companies can sponsor us too, I guess. Charmin, woo!
Charmin's doing fantastic through COVID. They don't need no help.
Yeah, Continental, Northern, whatever.
Great Northern, I think.
Great Northern. We don't know our brands. It's okay.
We don't.
But anyway, we're not truly bought brands, because
No.
if we were, I don't even do baseball. I just wear it because I
No,
like the
you
logo.
like the shirt.
I like the shirt.
We don't even watch sports.
I never watched it. I know the Arizona Diamondbacks worked with a mentor of mine. That's it. So from there, I realized I was using store-bought. I don't know if my wife at the time realized she was doing store-bought.
I had no clue.
Yeah. So she's like, I'm going to tell you you're wearing store-bought. And it was a 3-hour escapade again. which then transformed. But I still was going over and like, now I know I'm using the cheap brand, but now how do I buy the better brand? And how do I actually justify the better brand? And that took a lot of time in 5 years. So for me, it was going through different things. And we're going to talk about that weight cleanup. But I finally started to go over and like look at Brawny in a sense. I'm like the thicker picker upper. I'm like, I'm starting to look at the aisle and I'm wrestling with it in the aisle, but I didn't go over and do that. And for my wife, like she said,
again, I was in a much different place, and the maturity and the process of healing and self-discovery happened quite a bit after this happened. You know, what you guys are hearing is a microwaved version of the process. I mean, we've been married for almost 15 years. I mean, in December will be 15 years. So you guys, you're hearing snapshots in time. But I mean, none of this happened overnight. It was a process of months and years to work through these things.
It was 14 years, 3 months and 27 days.
This is the numbers guy. He knows exactly how long we've been married to the hour, which is very endearing. And
8:35 p.m. But anyway. So going from there, now we're going to go jump into our last piece is how to do the cleanup. Because you can buy the store-bought brand. You can buy the Charmin. You can buy the Brawny. You can buy the Quilted Northern. Quilted Northern, that's the brand. See?
Oh, it wasn't Great Northern. Maybe those are beans.
Well,
I'm thinking of beans.
Well, Great Northern is going to be a
they
new
do white
toilet paper.
beans. They do white beans,
Wow.
which then you need the Northern because you eat the white beans anyways.
So black beans keep you clean. White beans are mean.
Generally, beans are good in like chili and tacos.
So Taco Bell's not going to sponsor us? No,
Taco
okay.
Bell, delicious. Have you ever had their tacos?
I hate tacos.
I love Taco Bell. Oh, hang on. The Doritos Locos Taco. Look, I try to make all of my food as healthy as possible, man. Whoever thought about putting a Dorito and putting it as a taco shell is a genius. That stuff is delicious. That's all I gotta say.
You're classically French trained and you're saying you cook the healthiest you can.
I try to keep things cooking at home and make it healthy. As in, I know exactly what's in it.
I tried Dario cheese. She didn't want to try it.
That's not dairy cheese.
Doesn't matter. It's
No. Cheese gotta come from the milk and a cow.
Beano pills and a
I can have dairy. I'm gonna get off this live and I'm gonna go eat ice cream. Okay, because people have been eating dairy for thousands of years, and if you don't have lactose issues, eat the real cheese.
I like carcinogens in my food.
Eat the real cheese.
Eat the real cheese. See, that's what us made viral.
Cheese?
So let's go over and talk about cleanup now, because now we have cheese. That doesn't clean up your diet, just so you know.
It's amazing. I love cheese.
Oh man, no, that's not good cleanup. But anyway, so why cleanup? So you go over and you might have the Brawny in your house, you might have the store-bought brand in your house. But like anything else, you can have all the tools and you might not even use them. There was moments I'm like, yes, I have the thicker picker-upper. I really am branded by Brawny. And go over and have that, but I didn't go over and use it. So why the cleanup? This is where it really gets into the living room, is that you can go over and try to keep it in the bedroom, but if you have kids more than 15 seconds, they sense your emotions. They sense your feelings.
Kids are the ultimate barometer of their environment. And I mean, I can tell you from growing up in a less than ideal home life, that it doesn't matter if you're keeping it in the bedroom, then the kids that spills out everywhere. And your kids will sense it. They'll internalize it. They may not even show on the outside it's affecting them, but it affecting the kids. And unfortunately, kids will be too quick to be like, this is my fault, I have to fix it. And that's not a pressure a child should ever feel inside of a home. Not ever.
Yeah. And when you go over and don't do cleanup, and I know there's going to be military couples and first responders that even have divorce under their belt, it still carries in ripples into the rest of their lives. Absolutely. If the cleanup doesn't go over and happen.
And if you are married to somebody and then you have your cup spilling and your other spouse's cup is spilling and you guys end up getting divorced and then you jump into another relationship, but you haven't dealt what's in your cup, then you're going to spill onto that new person. And then you're going to just repeat the cycle. I mean, your marriage may work, but you're going to run into the same problems that you ran into the first time. It's going to look different because you're now with a different person with a different cup and different issues.
Yeah, their cup might be clean. They might be slightly dirty. Theirs might be dirtier than yours.
And they might have kids, and it might be a blended family. And I mean, it just gets very complicated.
So no matter what happens, we want to encourage you, no matter where your relationship's at, currently married, struggling, gone through divorce, maybe going in a blended marriage, whatever, wherever you can go.
Or even single.
Or even
if you're single, like this is a perfect time for you to say, where am I? What's in my cup? And how can I clean this and do some self-discovery so that when you do join with another person that you are ahead of the game? Because I mean, we didn't do that. We weren't mature enough and we didn't understand the process. But if you can do that before you're married, or with if you're premarital counseling or engaged, I mean, that is the time to work this stuff out because you don't have to struggle. I mean, I say marriage for the first 7 years is the hardest. I can attest to that is very true, but it doesn't have to be if you do the proper prep, before, but you don't know what you don't know. Like me and my husband didn't understand this stuff at all.
Yeah. So here's some resources and everything else. Again, no matter where you're at, these resources are carried. So this is what we went over and did. So first, it was a book called Kazone for me, starting working through my past, CHAZOWN. Let me see if I can type that in real quick so you guys have that. CHAZOWN. There we go. That's one resource that you can go over and go to. Another resource that you can go over to is if you're military, government civilian, or EMS or fire, is usually you have like, for the military, it's a military family life consultant. You have chaplains, you have first sergeants and other things and whatnot. But those resources, especially for the military family life consultant or the counselors, you're protected, limited protection with the military family life consultants, chaplains 100% and whatnot. There's also EAP programs, which is employees assistance programs. But if you don't feel comfortable with those resources, you can go to off-base counselors, consultants. That's what we do. We do consulting from the bedroom to the boardroom. The biggest thing is that you need to find the resource that works for you and where your resources are at. So me, it was prayer. It was introspection. It was actually me going over and getting a doctorate degree with my wife. It was actually me and my wife writing a book, which we try to give this as a resource for your marriage because it does spill into the living room. So you can get this wherever you want to get it, Amazon and everything else. We're still down to 99 cents, so take advantage of that. We don't have time to update it to get it, make it up a price. So you might as well take advantage of 99 cents digital.
No, one thing I will say is that in order to transform your marriage or your relationships, it has to be like you can't pull your spouse or your significant other through the process. You absolutely can't. Me and my husband went through individual processes. He had his earlier, I had mine later, but we both did individual work. And if you don't do individual work and you have one spouse that's doing all of the work and one spouse that doesn't take it seriously, it's not going to work. I mean, one person's going to change and grow and then you're going to have another person that is stagnant and you're basically just dragging them along. And we know this because I was dragging. Like there is a meme on Facebook and it shows like a beach and like big lines. And basically it was like, the Lord's like, I dragged you because you didn't want to go. And I'm very stubborn. So, but basically, hopefully the first spouse could encourage the second spouse. And it was a challenge because let me give a quick example here. I've realized my fuel to do anything is fear because I was raised in an environment that was very negative and very, very negatively reinforced. That I did think whenever I get a job, I would work really hard because I was afraid I was going to get canned. Like, everything, if something bad was going to happen to me and there was fear behind it, I would work and run and do everything I could. So when my husband changed, which is before I changed, he stopped being critical of me. I would rip him a new one and he would still be nice to me. And then I figured out I can't function. Uh-oh, where are we? Hello?
It's just lag.
Oh, it's like, there we go. I realized I can't function. I couldn't clean the house. I couldn't get off my back end because my motivation, my fuel, there was no fear. My husband, I wasn't fearing he was leaving. I wasn't fearing he was going to physically abuse me. Like, I wasn't fearing anything. And at that point,
That initially.
That was my cue that I needed to change, because obviously there's a giant problem when I'm in a very positive environment with an amazing husband who's changing and treating me like a queen. And now I don't have the motivation to do anything, which sounds horrible, but that's where I was. So that is an example of, why I changed. But yeah, he changed first and then I changed, but his change encouraged. So even when you're going through the change process, don't get discouraged if your spouse or significant other isn't showing any interest or any pulse on it in that moment, because sometimes it just takes longer for them to engage, and they're going to see you and they're going to see the positive things you're doing. And then they're going to take notice, hopefully, and jump on board. But it's got to be individual processes, and you can't control when that happens. He tried to, so it didn't work.
The DNA of Relationships, great book, Gary Smalley, if I remember correctly. I read this thing at the end of the book, and it basically culminates as this. You do the change for yourself, for that transformation, in hope that your change, with God's help, goes over and transforms your marriage. And then they want to change. If you ever gone into a work environment, someone's like really positive. So if you ever watch some of the episodes that we've done, or maybe you're following all the time, about the smiling commander. Haven't mentioned him in a while, but
I like him.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Fun.
So he goes over and he's always in a good mood. It doesn't matter what happens. And you just go in there, and I could be ticked off and everything else. And then you're like,
well, even when he tells, the thing is, even
happens.
when he tells you criticisms, like, you'll feel good in the moment, and then you walk out of the office and you're like, what just happened?
Yep. I had my legs swiped under me, but he's so positive. Like, I'm like, I have not a leg to stand on this. And he's right. But it was positive and edifying, but I didn't realize, I'm like.
You realize after you left the room.
Yeah, like most people will go over and they're going to, like Tanya Hardy version. You knew you were going to get your knees taken out. Well, she didn't, but it was Nancy Kerrigan.
No, she didn't.
Yeah. Why, Nancy? Why? Or is it why, Tanya? Why? Why, Tanya? Why? I'm like, that particular guy, I don't know. But in general, it was so unobvious that I walked out, and it was like an hour or so later, and I'm like, that.
Yeah, he calls me. He's like, I think I just got roasted, but like, he was so nice that I didn't realize it until I left the office.
Exactly. So when that happens in your marriage and then in your living room, and you start pouring that out, then the kids start to change and everything else. And that's why the cleanup and then the sources we mentioned is so you have that transformed living room. You're like, maybe wondering why. Oh, there's some comments.
We have comments?
We usually don't get comments.
Yay!
Yeah. Oh, okay. That was a solicitation. Okay. Thanks for soliciting. We love you.
We love you.
So,
wow, we're desperate for comments. We're like,
it's okay. It's okay. So we at least uplifted one comment to wherever it be. Anyway.
It's okay.
But long story short, we give these resources to go over and serve you and to help you go over and thrive. And just remind you again, as we talked about in other episodes this past week, you might be totally in the mire, totally in the poo-poo. It's just knee deep. Maybe it's ankle deep. Maybe it's up to your chest.
Canyon of poop.
And for us, it was a canyon of poo-poo. I mean, like on my wife's birthday, like 8 years ago, it was like a canyon of poo-poo.
And the people I didn't remarry anybody, and my husband didn't remarry. Wait, they're hiding back now. No, we didn't physically remarry new people, but functionally we are new people. Like, we are not the same people that entered into this marriage. If we were the same people that entered this marriage, we wouldn't be married anymore. There's no way this marriage would have survived.
Or we would have did like a religious marriage, and we would have stayed for the kids, and then it's spiritually and physically.
The thing is, I would have not I would have not had the self-confidence that we built in, because I wouldn't have the self-respect to stay in this marriage the way that it was.
Now she's ready.
He's created a monster, man. Like,
now if poo-poo ever comes out of our cup, it's more like from a cannon.
But it's contained.
In a net? That's
Maybe.
really weird. That's a poo-poo net. That's a
Maybe.
really, that's a horrible visual. If you're visual like me, that was a horrible visual.
You know,
So,
sometimes
folks,
I say things just because I know he is hyper visual, so I'll say things that are random just to see his face, and it's amazing. It's fun when you learn your spouse and learn how they tick. That's a good one.
Yeah. So we're gonna go TikTok out of here because it's been 35 minutes.
That's been 35 minutes.
TikTok.
Please never do that dance on TikTok.
I will. That's gonna carry.
No.
The one hand clap while I'm doing it.
See, when you move like that, I don't think it tracks you as well, and you can tell you're on a green screen.
It's okay. But anyway, so we're here to go over and serve you. Again, if you're a military veteran, first responder listening, we give up to 20 minutes free in every single person's consultation. So if you are struggling from the bedroom to the boardroom, want to be connected, want to go over and to thrive, that is our heart and that is our goal. So we love to go over and do that. And again, we want to thank you for going over and coming on each and every day. We love the comments, even if they are soliciting. It's okay.
And if you're watching this after the broadcast, go ahead and if you're on Facebook or wherever you're at, and there's the ability to comment, you can go ahead and do that after the broadcast, and then I personally will be in the thread responding to those comments. Yay! Thank you for a thumbs up. Yay! All
right, so we're gonna go again. This is always a conversation, never just a monologue. At least it's semi-dialogue.
It is a dialogue now. That's exciting.
So we're going to go mosey, and we'll catch you on Saturday at 10:30 at Clubhouse to expand in one more topic of bringing the legacy past you, because it's not just about you and it's not just about them. It's further than that. So we'll talk about that, have some questions. We're going to be more engaging. I got my learning lessons. So we're going to go from there. All right, guys and ladies and gents, we're going to punch out. Thank you all for joining, and have a great War Hero to Superhero Day.